Hey everyone, it's Matt Payne. I thought I'd put a video together and talk with you about something other than drums. What I'd like to actually talk with you about is something that is one of the most personal stories of mine. In 2009, I had started a new job that I didn't like, and a month into it, it just really wasn't working out, and I found myself very quickly starting to become ill. And I wasn't really sure what was going on. Stomach was kind of weird, and started to get sick at work, which is not exactly something you want to be doing when you just started a job, a new job, professional job, 1 month prior to that date. So I'm getting sick at work, and this is becoming not necessarily a daily recurrence, but what seems like at least weekly. And I realized that it was time to maybe just start heading to my primary doctor and just saying, hey, this is what's been going on. Not sure what's been happening. I haven't changed any of my dietary habits, really no lifestyle changes, but something's going on. So that doctor visit ended up being, well, let's do an endoscopy and we'll just kind of check out the insides of your stomach and we'll see what's going on. So I went for an endoscopy, put the camera down my throat, they did the whole thing, and came back and said, nothing really looks out of the ordinary there, but we'll keep an eye on it and see how it goes. And that feeling kept going. I kept feeling ill, I kept getting sick at work or at home. The appetite started to go away. I started to just feel very fatigued all too often. And my primary doctor at the time said, look, you know what, let's just do a full lab test. You're 24 years old, let's just kind of see what's going on here and get this figured out and we'll see what's going on. So a couple weeks go by, I've done my labs, went in for the lab test, and I get a call back from my doctor. And my doctor tells me, your kidneys are functioning at a rate of about 10%. So I don't know what any of you would do when you get a phone call like that. You don't really know what to make of it, and you wonder, my kidneys, like, what happened to my kidneys? Why are my kidneys going bad? I don't understand what the issue is. I'm not diabetic or anything. I don't down Mountain Dew 7 times a day. I don't know what the issue is. But it was my kidneys. And so he sent me to a doctor that's called a nephrologist, which is a doctor that specializes in renal issues or kidney issues. And so we went and we talked to a doctor that was near my home, which at the time I was living near Daytona Beach, Florida, and went to this doctor. He saw the lab work and he said, well, let's do a biopsy on your kidney. Let's check it out. Let's take a piece of it. Somewhat of an in and out procedure, little bit of a pinch, and we'll just kind of actually see what's going on. So we did that. And the doctor said, just give us a couple days, we'll figure out what's going on. A couple days go by and there's no phone call. A couple more days go by, there's still no phone call. And what I decided after about a week and a half of waiting very impatiently for this news of what was going on with my kidneys, I decided to call the doctor's office at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I left that job that I didn't like still, that I was still in. And I called the doctor's office and got straight through to the doctor. And I said, hey, it's Matt Payne, guy you took a piece of meat from a couple weeks ago. Would love to hear the results of the biopsy. And that phone call I'll never forget, because it was November 13th of 2009. And it was also Friday the 13th. At 5 o'clock that day, my doctor quite nonchalantly just said, oh yes, I have your results here. I've been meaning to call you. You're at stage 5 renal failure and you're going to need a kidney transplant. again, what do you do with that information? I don't know what the right way is to process something like that. So I was in a kind of a bit of a stage of shock on the car ride home. I had about a 40-minute car ride home to start processing what was happening. First person I called, of course, was my wife. Told her what was going on, and of course we're upset by this. I called my parents to let them know what's going on. They were aware of this whole ordeal that I had been going through. And of course they were upset as well. Everyone's really just confused. How's this guy? He's in his mid-20s and he needs a new kidney all of a sudden. And both of his kidneys are shot. What do you do with that? And I called my one of my best friends that I've had growing up, Rick Jordan. And I talked to Rick and I said, Rick, this is what's been going on. These are the results that I've had from my biopsy, and they said I need a transplant. And what's amazing about Rick, and I know none of you know him, but what's amazing about Rick is as soon as I said that I'm going to need a transplant, the words that came out of his mouth were, you can have mine. And it's such an out-of-body experience, because you don't expect for something like this to happen to you. But then when it does happen to you, and you so quickly see the good and the people that mean so much to you. I didn't even think once of asking Rick for a kidney, but he did it. He said you can have mine, and of course I was very grateful for that. I had no idea where we were going from there. I have no idea what the next processes were or anything, but I knew that my good friend was ready and willing to help save my life, not even thinking twice about it. So that was a pretty special moment. So I did some research, and I ended up looking through the internet, of course, on renal failure, kidney transplants. I got to figure out what this is, because every bit of this is brand new to me. So I found a lot of articles from a hospital called the Mayo Clinic. This particular one is out of Jacksonville, Florida, which was about an hour and a half or so from my house at the time. And so I thought to myself, well, if I'm getting a kidney transplant, I'm going to go to this place, because clearly, based on what I'm reading online, these are the experts. They've got a lot of information. They know what they're doing. They've got great success rates with these transplants, or survival rates, which I hate that term. That term freaks me out. But it's, it was something that seemed to be hopeful. So I went to the Mayo Clinic. Great people there, wonderful people, very, very helpful. They completely understood the situation that we were in. And I had to start going through the process of being approved to get a kidney transplant. That's right, you have to be approved to get a kidney transplant, because there are some situations for folks that maybe are unfortunately far too overweight or obese, that maybe their body can't take that type of operation. They need to lose some pounds, or maybe there's just some other lifestyle habits that people have that aren't going to allow them to qualify for a transplant. So I have to go through the testing process. The testing process took some time to schedule with the Mayo Clinic. Once we were actually able to get scheduled, we went through the process, and you feel like you're about to be, I can't even describe it. You're scanned from head to toe, almost literally, of an EKG and just all the ultrasounds and all these different tests that they do for you to see, make sure you're on par, make sure you're healthy, make sure everything else is good with your body, and you're going to be able to go through this transplant without any issues. So I go through the processes, we go through the motions of doing that, and they come back with my results, and they say, congratulations, you're eligible for a kidney transplant. But that's only step one of the process, because you also have to have someone to give you a kidney, which some of you might be thinking about, hey, he mentioned that Rick guy. I bet Rick is the one that gave him a kidney. Well, not exactly, because it's not just about finding someone that can give you a kidney. It's about finding someone who has a kidney that's a good match for your body. Now, for those that don't know, if you've got an identical twin, or even I think even a fraternal twin, that is someone that has an exact DNA replication of you. And someone like that is the perfect candidate for a kidney transplant because you have the same exact DNA. I don't have a twin. So that option was out the window. So we continued going through the process of learning about how the donor situation works. You can be a live donor or living donor, which is another living person that's willing and able to give you one of their kidneys, or there's also one known as a cadaver, which is the unfortunate situation where you have someone that's passed and they've signed up to be an organ donor, and their organs can go help to save someone's life, someone like myself. There's a long list of people that are on those recipients listings to become a recipient of one of those cadaver donors. There's a very long list of that. So that's more of the plan B option. Plan A right now was to find someone, a living donor, which have greater success and survival rates for those kidneys. I needed to find a living donor for this if I was going to really succeed at plan A here. So there's no identical twin in the family, so the next best option is thinking about just family members in general. And of course my mom was very quick to say, me, please let me be the donor. But again, it's not that simple because the donor also has to go through a series of tests just as rigorous as the tests that I originally went through. So as we're working with the Mayo Clinic, we found that it once again took some time to get my mom scheduled at that location to go through her testing, which again, people were great. They are phenomenal experts at what they do, fine individuals for sure. It just took a long time to get the scheduling there because it's such a busy hospital. So my mom went through Mayo and she ended up getting all the tests done. Everything was done. There was a little bit of concern with a couple of the tests, and they decided that my mom might not be the best candidate for this process. And again, there's a couple different factors that can go into that for somebody. So we have to now not necessarily go back to the drawing board, but we've got to start thinking again. What can we do here? And if you've ever seen, for those that watch my channel, if you've ever seen my drum duet that I did with my dad a couple years ago, that was a birthday present for my sister Elizabeth. And Liz raised her hand to say, well, I'll give it a shot. Let me see what this is about, and let's see if we can get tested as well. So then my sister came into the picture, and we realized that everything that was happening with Mayo, although everyone was really great, everything was just really tremendous, as we're looking at these schedules to now get my sister in there to get tested, we're looking at another month or 2 months before she's going to be able to get in there and get her full scan. And when you're on a timeline of 10% and declining functionality of your kidneys, time is not on your side as much. Because at this point, my nephrologist, who I had actually changed at this point, I should also mention, the guy that had me call him at 5 o'clock on Friday the 13th to tell me that I need a kidney transplant was out of the door. I got rid of him pretty quick. And I started working with a nephrologist with the Florida hospital team out of Orlando. So my sister came into the picture, and again, we're going through the scheduling process with Mayo, and we're looking at, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks before they were able to get her in just for the testing. So we thought, you know what, maybe we need to kind of reshift this. Although Mayo is wonderful and great, I started learning a lot more about Florida Hospital with the new nephrologist that I had in that area. And as I'm learning more about Florida Hospital and the transplant clinic that they have there, I thought, it might be time to part ways with Mayo and start heading over this way, because it seems like they're just as intelligent, of course, great success rates. They're closer, and talking with the folks there, they can get a lot of things done a lot quicker. So with my sister's scan needing to happen, we started talking with the transplant folks at the Florida hospital in Orlando. And as we're explaining everything that's going on, we got some of my records transferred over from Mayo, and they were able to schedule my sister to come in for her scan within 2 or 3 weeks. And so my sister went through the process of getting her scan done at Florida Hospital. And the thing about having a match with a kidney donor, I mentioned before that the perfect match would be an identical twin, same exact DNA. There's really no concerns with that, because here's the reason why they want that. When you have an organ come into your body like a kidney, or in some cases where people have liver transplants or heart transplants or those types of things, your body has a way of rejecting that organ because it sees it as this crazy outside source. What's going on here? You're not supposed to be in this space. This is my house. You're not supposed to be here. And the more likely of a match, the stronger the match that organ is to you and your body and your body's DNA, the easier it is for your body to accept that organ. It will never accept it completely. Again, unless it's an identical twin, it will never accept it completely. But the greater gap that you have in the DNA match, the stronger that rejection is. All right, so the goal here is to now find something that's going to be the best, closest match to a identical twin. So when my sister comes into this picture, she gets her testing done, and we find out that she's good to go. The hospital scanned her. They went through all the different tests that everyone needs to go through for this process, and they said, your sister's a great candidate for this. Not only is she a good candidate, her DNA, of course she's my sister, but her DNA is the next closest match to an identical twin for me. So I think there was something like 6 different chromosomes, if I'm remembering this correctly. There are like 6 different chromosomes that they want matched up. And my sister matched all 6 of them, which is what's really great. Some people only get a donor match out of just 2 or 3 of those, and it's a pairing, but it's not as strong. But my sister was able to get a really great match, the next best thing to having an identical twin. So we're going through the motions at this point, because now she's approved and she's a really great match. So now all we need to do is schedule this thing. Now for me, again, I was getting closer and closer to complete renal failure, to the point where the doctors were going to start wanting to do dialysis. Dialysis is a procedure that is done for many renal failure patients, where you artificially have your blood filtrated, which is basically taking the job of what your kidneys are supposed to be doing for your body, except you're using a machine to essentially do that instead. So there's a couple different types of dialysis. There's one that goes, they're putting needles, if you will, into your arm, and you've got these different components that are in there, and you hook yourself up there a couple hours at a time, multiple days a week. You may have heard of these dialysis clinics where you go there and they hook you up to a machine and it literally filters your blood for you, because as of right now, your kidneys aren't doing that. And when your kidneys don't do that, that's when you get toxins and poisons that get into your body. And that's what was causing the anemia, the fatigue. You would get this, I remember this metallic-y taste in your mouth, and it was just, everything about my life at that point was awful. We had just bought a house. My wife and I had bought a house during this whole ordeal. And it desperately needed to be painted. The walls were literally McDonald's red and yellow, and it was, no one wanted to be a part of this. So we were painting the house inside, and my family was there painting all these walls, and I wanted to help, and I have my roller there, and I start rolling the wall, and I get 2 minutes into it, 3 minutes into it, before my body is just in such pain and I'm so tired that I have to sit down. And it's not cool when you're watching your whole family paint your house while you're sitting there feeling like you can't move. You know, that's not a good feeling. So my body wasn't doing good. In short, my body was crapping out. So my nephrologist at the time, he's aware of what was going on with all these tests with my sister and everything. The challenge was, if for some reason something is delayed, or at the time my sister's tests weren't working out, this was prior to her going for her scans, my nephrologist wanted to be ready for peritoneal dialysis. And that's a little bit different than the one I was talking about before, where they kind of hook you up to a machine and it sort of circulates your blood. Peritoneal is a different type that actually includes a tube that you have in your stomach. And there's a machine that you hook yourself up to while you're sleeping. So it goes for about 9 hours at a time. And you do this every night. And there are many people that go through this method year after year. And there's a lot of restrictions for it. It's certainly something that will change your life, for at least for the time that you're doing that. But my nephrologist wanted me to be prepared for that stage if my sister didn't work out. So I actually had a tube put in. They were prepping me for peritoneal dialysis in case my sister didn't work out. So while she's going through her scans, I'm getting a surgery done to have this tube put in, again, prepping for this dialysis treatment. So when I got the news about my sister being a match, it was really great because, of course, she's a match and I have a donor now, and we can get this scheduled and I can get a new kidney and hopefully start feeling better. And then I get this damn thing out of here, which was one of the best parts about it as well, because that was not cool. No sexiness was happening with a giant tube coming out of your stomach. So we get the transplant scheduled. Transplant was scheduled for August 25th of 2010. I should also mention that during this whole ordeal, I had been working at this place that I hated, the place I still started this story from. What's crazy is I started that job on August 24th of 2009. In order to get short-term disability with that employer, you needed to be employed by them for a year. So what worked out really well was my surgery just so happened to be scheduled on August 25th, which was a year and a day, making me eligible for the short-term disability. So while I'm going to be out for 8 weeks for this, 8 to 10 weeks for this operation, I'm also going to be able to have an income coming in, because a week prior to that, I would have had nothing. I would have been eligible for that. So, you know, talk about things happening at the right time. That was really one of the best examples of that for me. So we go through the process. My sister and I go to the hospital that morning early, and we get prepped. We get prepped for a life-changing event. And my sister's great. She's there, she's happy, I'm happy. You know, one thing that you've got to understand about my family is humor and comedy and finding laughter in even the most tense, awkward situations is what we kind of thrive on. I'm not being a comedian for this video, but I mean, you know, comedy and laughter is what really runs our household here with my family, with my wife, my kids, and my own family, you know, back home, and my parents and all those things. So, you know, we're sitting there about to have this huge operation, and we're still cracking jokes about things. We're still finding things in the room to make fun of, and you know, it's just laughter. I mean, they always say laughter is the best medicine, but guys, I can't explain to you how important laughter is when you're in such a dire situation. You know, again, we're in this situation in this pre-op area, and we're about to go do this crazy procedure, and you know, I'm making fun of my sister for something. That's I guess that's a big brother for you. So the folks came in and they gave us our happy juice, as we like to call it. kind of get you going, and they take you back and they do the operation. Operation is about 4 hours to get that whole process going. So 4 hours later, I'm in the ICU. I had woken up. I had actually woken up just after the operation, not during. Thank God. But just after the operation, I remember kind of looking up, and it was very similar to like what you see on a movie or a TV show, where you kind of see these figures that are blurry. You can sort of make them out, but you don't really know what's going on. And that experience went in and out. I don't know for how long, but it went in and out. So I'd woken up a couple times with that. Woke up in the ICU at nighttime that day for about 10 minutes before I went back to sleep again. So I was really tired. About day 2 or day 3, I think it was day 2, my sister started to kind of come around as well. You know, she's of course hopped up on pain meds just like I was in this case. And the first thing she wants to do, the first thing she says is, "How's Matt?" So she wants to know how I'm doing first, which is telling about my sister. That explains all you need to know about my sister. Is when she comes to out of an operation, she wants to know how I'm doing. That's my sister. So she wanted to come see me. So my parents, let the doctors know and the nurses know, and they brought her over. She was able to sit in a wheelchair at that point. I'm still in a bed, barely able to move. And she came in there and she said hi. Actually, she didn't say anything. She just kind of looked at me, and my parents were in there. And the first thing she says to me is, "What are you going to get me for Christmas this year?" Like I said, comedy is what rules our house. Comedy is what rules our family. You know, I love making my wife laugh. I love making my kids laugh. But the person that I think my sister and I both love to make laugh is our dad, because that's where it comes from. You know, comedy and all this comes from our dad. So, asking me what I'm going to get her for Christmas after she just donated her kidney to me was nothing short of what Liz would say to someone in that situation. So, it was a very hard time, but at the same time, thinking about that job again, one of the reasons I'm smiling in this picture of me in the pre-op area is I'm thinking about having 10 weeks off of the job that I loathe so much. Which was really nice to have a little break of this job. It was one of the things I was looking forward to, was not only having a better quality life, but not having to deal with this employer for 10 weeks. I'm really making them sound out to be really awful people. They were fine people, just the job was awful. So I was in the hospital for 4 days. I went home, I had a walker, and my wife and I would go around the block, and what would normally take a normal person, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 minutes to go around the block, would take about an hour for me, because I'm moving at a snail's pace. But you need to walk, you need to go through those motions. And the other thing about kidney transplants, and this is for anyone that's watching this, that just needed to hear a story, needed to hear someone's perspective on this from a recipient standpoint. Your medicine. When you have a transplant, you're on immunosuppressant, anti-rejection medication for the rest of your life. You're on that for the rest of your life, and that goes back to what I was saying before about your body rejecting the organ that's all of a sudden in your body. Unless you have an identical twin, you're going to need these anti-rejection medications no matter how good of a match that person is. So although my sister was the next best thing, there's still something in there that my body knows, hey, that's not me. That's not me completely. So I am on an anti-rejection medication, and I will continuously take, as we know it, for the remainder of my life. And I take a smaller dosage because my sister was a better match, so I do take a smaller dosage. Some people have enormous dosages of these things. But to the people that are getting a transplant, to the people that have had a transplant, what I want to echo are the things that you either will be hearing or you've already heard. How important it is to take your medicine. I know that sounds like such an old man thing to say, but your medicine is what is keeping you and your kidney alive. Yes, if your kidneys fail, there's dialysis treatment, but also be mindful that dialysis doesn't allow you to continue to function as normal forever. That does expire eventually. Allowing yourself to just stay alive is let that living kidney, let that kidney be healthy that you have in your body at this point. I spoke once at a small conference 6 weeks after this transplant took place. They wanted my sister and I to sort of share our story with some folks that had been thinking about having a transplant. And the first thing one of the first pieces of advice that I have for people is, you're taking your medicine. The problem that a lot of people have, the people that oftentimes go through not a failed transplant, but maybe a low survival rate of that kidney, a lot of people don't take the medicine. And when these transplant clinics talk to these people and say, what's going on? Why aren't you taking your medicine? They say, I feel fine. I feel great. What's the need for me to do this if I feel great? I feel like $1 million. I'm back to my old self again. You feel great because your medicine allows you to feel great. And when you take that away, you don't feel great anymore. Your kidney doesn't feel great anymore. So your medicine is what allows you to continue feeling great. So always be mindful of that if someone watching this is about to go through a kidney transplant or thinking about going through the process or something, be mindful about the importance of taking your medicine on a regular basis. I take my medication at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. For those that know me, if you're around me at 8 o'clock at night, you hear my phone go off because I have an alarm. Every night at 8 o'clock, my alarm goes off on my phone so I never forget to take my medication. The hardest part about it is, having to carry it around wherever I am. So if I'm at a movie, a concert, all places where I've had to whip out my medicine and kind of, get that going, that's a very small sacrifice that you're paying to live a great life. So anyway, that's really what this has been all about for me, is just kind of sharing my story with you, sharing my experience, my thoughts, because I know when I went through this process, I needed someone to talk to. And granted, I can't have a conversation with you right now, but you can hear my side of this. And I think for anyone watching this, maybe that's all you needed right now, is you just needed to hear someone's side of this and what their experience was like. This is a topic that I am always happy to talk about with someone, because it's somewhat of a sad story, but with a really great ending. A really great ending. And again, going back to how I felt when I went through this process, I would have loved to have someone that I could have talked to or reached out to say, hey, I have a lot of questions. I just got diagnosed with renal failure. I'm going to need a transplant, and I need to know what to expect. I need to know what's happening. Well, of course, you talk to your doctors about this, but sometimes you just want to talk to another person. Someone that's already been through this circus of a kidney transplant. So for anyone that's watching this that has questions about the process, about what to expect or anything, or tips, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on social media. My social media tag is Matt Payne Drums, all one word. So you can find me on whatever social media network. Find me on there. Shoot me a message. I'm always happy to talk about this for anyone that wants to hear about it or wants to talk about it. So don't hesitate to reach out if you do have questions. So my sister mentions the Christmas gift. Didn't have a Christmas gift for her, but with the help of a very amazing person, whose name I'm going to leave out of this, but a very amazing person was able to get my sister VIP backstage meet and greets with Blake Shelton when he was visiting Daytona Beach about 4 or 5 weeks after my transplant took place. This person was able to, I told this person this story, and he was able to get this wonderful hookup for my sister, who was just, again, a huge Blake Shelton fan at the time, and he was happy to get her these passes and tickets to this concert, which was right in her backyard in Daytona Beach. So that was kind of her big thank you gift, and I still haven't done enough. So I plan to do even more for my sister, because hey, she's the reason why I'm here talking with you right now. Who knows how long I would have made it through dialysis? I don't know. 50 years ago, when these things happened, they didn't even have a treatment for it. You died. I mean, it's as simple as that. You went into renal failure 50, 60 years ago. They didn't have these machines to even try to filter your blood for you. They didn't have dialysis. You died. So that's really one of the scariest parts about this is, I'm thankful for the time that we live in. I'm thankful for the achievements that we have in medicine, and that we have these processes, these procedures that are in place to allow people like me to lead a regular life again. Again, thanks for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed the video, and again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions or want to talk with a person that's gone through this same ordeal. See you later.